Hello, and welcome back to our lifelong learning series. My name is Brooke Hogenkamp. I'm the Family and Consumer Science Agent for Carlisle County. And on today's episode, we're going to discuss Healthy Home Solutions Pest Management. Here we go. The program today will include general information on Integrated Pest Management, or IPM, and the role pesticides have in an IPM program. So hopefully by the end today, you'll be comfortable listing connections between overall health, well-being, and the home environment, identifying some home pest management techniques, and then listing the integrated pest management actions. So why do we care about this? What's the big deal about healthy homes and pesticides? Well, according to the CDC, there's some pretty big reasons we should care. Chemicals in and around the home can poison people or pets and cause long-term health effects. Every 13 seconds, a poison control center in the United States answers a call about a possible poisoning. More than 90% of these exposures occur in the home. Poisoning can result from medicines, pesticides, household products, carbon monoxide, and even lead. The pesticides are used in about 3 out of 4 U.S. homes. They're used to prevent or kill bugs, but they can also poison people or pets. So it's really important to us to know the connections between our overall health and well-being and those of our home environment. So what is a healthy home anyway? The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development states that a healthy home is one that is designed, constructed, maintained, or rehabilitated in a manner that prevents diseases and injuries that result from housing-related hazards. So why is the health of our homes so important? Well, our home environment should be healthy because there are many things there that can cause sickness or harm. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the U.S. Department of Agriculture have put together this booklet called Everyone Deserves a Safe and Healthy Home. It's one of the most useful, comprehensive resources of its kind. It covers key topics important to healthy housing, including pest management. So the 8 principles of a healthy home, according to the booklet, are keep it dry, clean, safe, well-ventilated, pest-free, contaminant-free, and well-maintained. If you're interested in obtaining a copy of this booklet, contact your local extension office and they should have access to one. So let's move right along and talk about some of the common pests that you could find in or near your home environment. Thankfully, most of us have a home of some kind. This photo is an example of a single-family dwelling, but the techniques we discussed today can be used in a variety of homes, apartments, housing complexes, condos, manufactured homes. So focus on this photo. Do you see any ways in the photo that a pest could enter this home? Well, let's look. See the plant boxes and open windows? A pest could live in the plant box and climb in through that open window. What about the tree branches touching the house? A pest could climb down the tree and use that limb to enter your home. What about the car? Have you brought something new in your home? Maybe something bought secondhand? An old mattress is an obvious example of an item that might transport a pest in it. You see those plants close to the house? Well, plants like that can provide a perfect hiding place for a pest like a rodent. So pesticides are powerful tools for controlling pests. However, there are also other tools available for use in pest control, many of which pose greatly reduced risk to human health and the environment than pesticides do. IPM is an effective and environmentally sensitive approach that makes use of a variety of these tools. IPM relies on a combination of both common sense practices and science-based strategies rather than just solely relying on spraying pesticides. So, do you have pests? If you do find one in or around your home that you're unable to identify, you should consider taking a photo or even catching a sample to take to your local extension office. Extension professionals can either identify the pest for you or send it off for further identification. And identification is key when it comes to controlling a pest problem. Knowing what kind of pest you're dealing with makes getting rid of it so much easier. So because there are many pests that can be found in and around homes, for the sake of time, we're going to focus on the 4 most common. And those are cockroaches, ants, rodents, and bed bugs. Generally speaking, the skills used to manage one can be effective on other kinds of pests. So what we need to know when identifying and managing a pest is, what do they look like? How do they reproduce? Where do they like to live? And what do they like to eat or drink? First up on our household pest list is cockroaches. Cockroaches are a public health nuisance. They spread filth, ruin food, fabric, and book bindings. And according to the World Health Organization, they even disgorge portions of their partially digested food at intervals, drop feces. They discharge a nauseous secretion from both their mouth and gland openings on their body, which give a long-lasting, offensive cockroach smell to food or areas visited by them. As if that's not enough, they are proven or suspected carriers of organisms causing diarrhea, dysentery, cholera, leprosy, plague, typhoid fever, and other viral diseases. Right. So, how do we recognize a cockroach? Well, there are different kinds. Some that are common here are the American cockroach, which is larger and sort of a reddish brown color, and the German cockroach, which is a little smaller, and you'll notice 2 dark parallel lines that help identify it. And cockroaches breed quickly. Multiple eggs in each egg case hatch into nymphs, aka baby cockroaches. And nymphs, they just look like a smaller version of the adult. And then they'll grow into an adult, which will in turn lay multiple eggs in an egg case, and the cycle goes on and on. And before you know it, cockroach infestation. So, where do these cockroaches live? Well, pretty much anywhere. They're the most common pest in a home. They can live underneath your stove, under your refrigerator, in the bindings of books, because they like to be near food, water, but also warmth. So your kitchen is going to be the #1 place, and the bathroom a close second. While that's the main 2 places, they can be found in any room. So if you're struggling with an infestation, all the rooms should be carefully checked. And they do like to live in cracks and crevices, so their body is touched above and below. And what do they like to eat? Well, just about anything. Crumbs, grease, trash, cardboard, glue, they are not picky. So it's really important to keep your home clean to control a cockroach situation. A clean home will have less food for cockroaches to eat. And while they can go a month without food, they can only survive a week without water. So removing water sources is extremely important. But cockroaches will drink from any water source, and that includes sinks, pet bowls, shower stalls, AC units, sweaty leaking pipes, and even a refrigerator drip pan or a leaky gasket. So it is very important to always control those water sources to control your cockroach situation. Next up, we have ants. So ants are very social little insects that like to live in colonies. And these colonies can range from a few hundred to millions of individuals in one group together. Within each colony, there's different individuals, and they all have different jobs. An ant colony is each going to have at least one queen, sometimes more, and that her job is strictly to lay eggs. So the eggs will hatch into white grub-like larvae, and those larvae grow into worker ants. And the worker ants, they feed and care for the queen, and they help raise those larvae into new workers. Plus, you see the ones that go out into the world and they forage for food and water, sometimes at extreme distance from their home colony. There's lots of kinds of ants, but some of the more common ones we see are pavement ants, carpenter ants, acrobat ants, pharaoh ants, odorous house ants, and even fire ants. So, how do ants reproduce? Well, they're very organized about it. There is a strict division of labor. Queens lay eggs, and workers raise those eggs into more workers, and as needed, into a new queen. And the workers are also the ones that go out and search for food. So where do they live? Well, ants can live a lot of places. Indoors, you might find them in the space behind walls or inside cabinets. They can be in or under appliances, behind window and door frames, beneath the floors, or even in your potted plants. Outside, well, you can find them in open areas, in shaded areas, under pavement, under stones, under flower pots, under your siding. And ant nests are mobile. So if you disturb them, they can pick up the whole colony or nest and relocate to a new home. So, what do they like to eat or drink? Once again, they can eat or drink just about anything depending on the species. They'll seek out food from various sources. If the food source is good, worker ants will look for that food and leave an odor trail, and that's how they follow each other. And that's why you'll see ants going in a very straight line. They're following each other's odor trail. Now, as far as drinks, they're like other pests. They can find water just about anywhere. And because of their small size, it doesn't take much liquid to source them. So if you have ants, if you're seeing the trail of them going into your home, but you think they're nesting outside, well, try to follow that trail, and you can sometimes locate the source outside. Their trail will usually be along a windowsill, and it can go to an entrance door or along the bottom of that windowsill, or even where your exterior siding meets your foundation wall. And they usually do like to trail along the edges of things. They don't want to be out running across the bare open floor. So when you're tracing ant trails, pay particular attention to cracks, seams, edges, any kind of crack in your baseboard, or a track slip beneath the perimeter edge of your carpet or your mortar joints. Ant control can be very frustrating. But with the use of a little caulking to try to seal those cracks, keeping your counters clean, and sometimes the use of bait stations, they can be a manageable problem. The next pest on our list is rodents. Rodents are a problem in homes for several reasons. They can carry and transmit diseases. Their gnawing can damage your home, and they can contaminate your food supply. So there's several types of rodents, but the two that we'll focus on for this program are mice and rats. There's several ways to tell them apart. One way is by their size. Adult rodents can be distinguished by size, but it can be difficult to tell an adult mouse from a baby rat. But the head and feet of mice seem to be more proportionate in size to their body, and their tails then are long and thin, while rats have hind feet and heads that seem large for their body and thick tails that are shorter than their bodies. Mice are not small rats and do not become rats if they move outdoors. Another way to tell them apart is by their droppings. The droppings or feces of mice differ from that of rats. Knowing the difference can help determine if the pest in question is a mouse or a rat, because the control of each will differ. Droppings can help find nests or burrows because they are left in the areas of high activity. Rodents communicate by smelling chemicals in their droppings. So what about reproduction? How do the different rodents reproduce? Well, a mouse, they breed rapidly, and a single pair can become an infestation quickly. Take action when evidence of one mouse is seen or heard. And mice don't travel far. They like to stay around 30 feet from their nest. And that's important to remember because rats, on the other hand, will travel as far as 450 feet from their burrow. They prefer to live close to food and water sources. And then rats are going to be a little slower to reach reproductive maturity compared to mice. But those rats can have 6 or more litters per year. So where are these rodents going to live? Well, that's going to differ as well. Mice, for a mouse, nesting occurs where shelter and materials are available. Shredded paper, burlap, fabric, insulation, any fibrous material can be used to form a nest. A nest resembles a woven mass or ball, and they're usually 4 to 6 inches in diameter. Now rats, it's very different. A roof rat generally wants to live high up. Attics, rafters, cross beams of buildings, and they'll form runways along pipes and wires to get where they want to go. And a Norway rat, they generally want to live low down, basements, on the ground, floors, sewers, subways, and some even burrow under buildings. And what do these rodents want to eat or drink? Well, their appetites vary by species, but seeds and fruits are usually preferred items. Now, like all the other pests we've discussed, rodents like to drink around sinks, counters, floors, pet bowls, shower stalls, sweaty pipes, drip pans, and AC units. So once again, very important, keep it dry and keep it clean. The last pest on our list is bed bugs. Adult bed bugs are about the size of an apple seed, and they are oval in shape, and they can be red to dark brown in color. These little creatures are wingless. They do have antennae, and they feed through a 3-segmented beak that they use for piercing and sucking of blood. They have small eyes, and they like to feed on human blood. Bed bugs can be found in 2 different shapes depending on when they last fed. If they have recently fed, they'll be plump. But if they have not fed recently, they'll be flat. Now, a recently fed plump one, after it digests, will return back to its flat shape. So, how do these bed bugs multiply? Well, bed bugs reproduce and grow through a process called simple metamorphosis. The immature stages are called nymphs. We saw nymphs earlier in the cockroach section. This means the last nymphal stage develops directly into an adult without passing through a non-feeding pupal stage, so no cocoon. There are 5 nymphal stages, and they must molt or shed those outer exoskeletons to move on to the next stage. Each molt for a bed bug requires a blood meal. Both male and female bed bugs feed on blood and take repeated blood meals throughout their lives. Those females require blood to develop their eggs. The 5 nymphal stages are normally completed in 1 to 2 months, depending on temperature, humidity, and host availability. Nymphs can survive inside dwellings for several months without a meal, but they will not molt and grow into their next stage until they engorge. So adults can survive even longer under the same conditions, but again, those females have to feed on blood to be able to develop eggs. So where are bed bugs living? Well, they're nocturnal, and they are primarily active at night, and they're needing a blood host, so they are most likely found wherever their host is at night, and that's often in the bed. Bed bugs are very small and can hide in cracks and crevices, especially those of box springs, mattresses, clothing, and furniture around your resting space. Bed bugs also hide behind pictures, on curtains, phones, behind electrical outlets, behind hanging pictures, behind your smoke detector, even in a phone case. They do prefer wood and fabric versus plastic and metal. Bed bugs can build up large numbers before being noticed, and they are very hard to eliminate from a home environment. So, what do they eat and drink? Well, they need you because they only feed on blood. And they can live for a long time without eating. Some can live for almost a year. Their longevity depends on their temperature. They do thrive better in a lower, like 50-degree climate than they do at 80 degrees. And they do feed almost exclusively on humans. However, they have been found occasionally on animals, even on pets inside the home. Now that we're familiar with a few of the most common pests you'll find inside your home, let's discuss some integrated pest management actions. Integrated pest management steps are inspection, monitors, non-chemical treatment methods, unit preparation, and finally, pesticides. IPM serves as a framework to provide an effective, comprehensive, low-risk approach to protecting people and resources from pests. Here are some basic integrated pest action steps. We'll spend some time going over each one. Remember, inspection, monitor, non-chemical treatment, unit preparation, and pesticides last. The first step we will go over of our integrated pest management is the inspection. Inspection is an important stage because it is where you take in any information that will help identify the particular pest and what type of infestation you may be dealing with. This photo shows an adult bed bug crawling into a screw hole where the foot of a recliner used to be. When dealing with inspection and a rodent problem, be sure you take note of any physical characteristics you notice of that rodent. Are the ears small and proportionate to the head? Is the tail long and thin or shorter and relatively thick compared to the body? That can help you decide if you're dealing with rats or mice. Next, in integrated pest management, we will monitor. This is an example of a pest monitor used for bed bugs. These monitors are good for 2 stages, detecting early bed bug problems and evaluating the results of a treatment program. To use this, you would make your bed an island, It helps if your infestation is contained to the bed and you don't want it to spread anywhere else in the room. So you pull your bed away from the wall, put the legs into these interceptors, and that creates a moat situation. You then fill your moat with talcum powder, and the pests are not able to crawl up out of the talcum powder. It is key to keep your talcum powder fresh. Otherwise, this method will not work. Another good way to monitor is by using traps. Sticky traps such as these are good for collecting samples of your infestation. Once your trap is full, you can take that to an extension agent or a pest management professional for identification, so you know exactly what type of problem you're dealing with. These sticky traps work by putting a mineral-based glue onto a paper. There's no pesticide involved, and then the paper is folded to keep other pests and even your pets out of them. Now, one thing to note is when dealing with rodents, sticky traps are not necessarily as helpful as other methods, and some even consider them to be very inhumane. And adult rodents will usually avoid glue traps anyway. So you may want to consider using a box style trap, or if you are using a glue trap, put it inside of a short section of PVC pipe. Mice prefer tunnels and dark areas, and they may not detect the trap so that they're not able to get away with it and take your trap with them. So our next step is exclusion. Now, exclusion in integrated pest management refers to keeping out. So have you tried to keep pests out by blocking entry to your home? Well, this is exclusion. Some other examples include sealing any holes in the walls, sealing openings around pipes, and sealing gaps in doors and windows, etc. So when blocking entry to your home, you can use copper mesh, steel wool, caulking, anything to help seal up any entry points. Another great way to keep pests out is don't allow boxes or furniture that hasn't been inspected for pests to come into your home. Finally, keep plant material from touching your home. Trim those shrubs and limbs. This will remove a route of entry for pests. This method of non-chemical treatment is called encasement. Using encasement is designed for bed bugs. You can use this encasement as preventative before the infestation, or you can encase your mattress and bed springs after infestation. This traps the bugs so they cannot feed or escape. This is just one example of a product being sold on Amazon. We're not endorsing this particular product. Another method of non-chemical treatment is minimizing access to food and water. Yes, it's that simple. If you're trying to manage pests, make your home unfriendly to pests, minimize access to food and water, and make it impossible for them to make your home a shelter. No food or water equals no life. Do not leave pet food or water bowls out overnight. Don't leave dirty dishes in the sink. Be sure to fix up all those leaky faucets and keep your countertops as clean as possible. Ants will lay down an invisible odor trail, which workers follow between food and the nest. In many species, the trail of ants is distinct enough to be followed back to the nesting location or to where the ants are entering from outdoors. One way to confuse ants is to clean countertops with soap and water. This will help erase the trail, and the odor will confuse ants. Here's another type of trap, the mouse trap. This picture features an old-fashioned snap trap, cheap, easy, and effective. Always place snap traps against walls, ideally in corners or in known runways. Traps may be doubled up, and the more traps used, the more effective they will be. The reason for the placement is twofold. Rodents like to travel the same pathway every night. Setting traps along paths increases the chance of one running over the trap. Rodents also have very fast response time. If a trap is along a wall, the wall blocks them from reacting to the trap closing by running out to the side. Here are some other types of traps: curiosity traps, electronic traps, live traps, and ultrasonic devices. Though the ultrasonic devices have not been shown to be as effective as others. There's definitely a science to trapping rodents. Let's talk about strategies for mice and rats. Mice are easier to trap. Traps are very effective for mice. Mice will be trapped easily the first night, but then they will be trap shy. Set many traps the first night, clear them in the morning, and remove. Set them again a week later in slightly different locations. This technique will overcome trap shyness. Put out 6 traps for each mouse you believe is in your home and set with bait immediately. Rats are sometimes more difficult to catch with traps. Rats want to become familiar with the trap before getting on it. Leave traps baited but unset for several days. Rats will get used to feeding on them. Then rebait and set all the traps at once. For quicker in one-night rat trapping, place 3 traps next to each other, bait across all 3, and set only the middle one. Another important action in integrated pest management is unit preparation. This means keeping the house clean. Make your home inhospitable to pests. No food, no water, no chance for shelter. To make sure that people are prepared for treatment, ask pest management professionals about their preparation instructions and how tolerant they are of clutter. Finally, if nothing else works, we can reach for pesticides. A pesticide is something used to kill a pest. This is the last step in integrated pest management. There are organic and synthetic pesticides, but one isn't any safer than the other when used incorrectly. For example, nicotine is an organic pesticide, and you can die from nicotine poisoning as easily as you can a malathion poisoning. If you decide you want to use a pesticide, read and follow the label instructions. When you are selecting, mixing, applying, storing, and disposing. While foggers and balms are sold, they are not recommended for home use. They're ineffective and expose you and especially children to pesticides. So how do pesticides work? Pesticides have different modes of action. Kills on contact, kills after ingestion, or in case of insects, causes insects to not be able to molt correctly. The formulations vary depending on if it's going to be applied in liquid or dry form. The speed of the action will also vary. Contact insecticides are quick acting and kill by coming into contact with the pest externally or internally. Baits and bait stations contain an insecticide and food attractant confined within a plastic child-resistant container. The pest goes inside to eat the material. The pesticide kills or causes the pest to not be able to reproduce or molt. Some important info about baits and contact insecticides. Contact insecticides may have a greater risk of contact with the product, and then baits may have less risk of contact if it's inside a child-resistant container, but you do have to leave that out and can risk exposure to other animals such as pets. For example, here we have 2 products for fire ant use. The Orthene Fire Ant Killer is a contact insecticide, and the Amdro Fire Ant Bait is a bait. Both products are pesticides, but they have different modes of action, are formulated differently, and will perform very differently. Use the right pesticide for the pest, contact, or bait. For example, baits are useful for gathering pests such as flies, rats, etc. that range over a large area. Often the whole area does not need to be covered, just those spots where the pests gather. Wear personal protective equipment. Use the personal protective equipment as required by the pesticide you plan to use. Hand, eye, and feet protection is especially important. Pesticides can absorb through the skin in those areas. Once again, read the label every time pesticides are used. The label is the law. The label will instruct you how to store the pesticide safely. Always keep them out of the reach of children. Always keep them in their original container. Read and follow those instructions for key storage tips. Are you disposing of them properly? Read and follow those instructions. Do not pour pesticides down the drain, and that includes your toilet or public storm drain. So when we put it all together, inspection, monitor, non-chemical treatment method, unit preparation, and finally, pesticide as a last resort. Thank you for joining me for Healthy Home Solutions Pest Management. I hope you're able to use these integrated pest management actions to safely and effectively guard your home against unwanted pests. If you do find yourself unable to manage the pests on your own, please do not hesitate to reach out to a pest management professional to take further steps to guard your home. Thank you. This program has been brought to you by the University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension Service. If you've enjoyed it and would like more information from our lifelong learning series, hop on over to our West Kentucky FCS YouTube channel. Thank you.